Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second installment of the comprehensive yet informal study of Schelling's system of transcendental philosophy. Um, I'm Matt here with Pat and Harrison and Luca and Kirk. Last time we were here, we were talking about transcendental philosophy, as you could probably guess from the title of the work, but also from the first section. And Schelling set up this system in which there is subject, there the subjective and the objective. He calls it. The subjective is the conscious. Um, how did he describe it? It's like presentative. Uh, yeah, basically the one experiencing and the object. It's the common sense, basically understanding of subject and object. You have the experiencer and the experience, so to speak, and the knower and the known, as we also said. Basically that, and he makes his interesting claims that there's these are the two poles of knowledge, and so we don't know exactly why, but for some reason it follows for Schelling that there's this sort of drive to have one pole get to the other, essentially. So for the objective, this means empirical nature becoming a priori, essentially, by going from matter to form, and then for subjective side. Then this goes back to the title of the section. That's what transcendental philosophy is. That's what the concept of transcendental philosophy is. I mean, he didn't word it as the concept of transcendental philosophy, but essentially transcendental philosophy for Schelling is this analyzing. It's exactly like we were saying, the Kantian, also Fichtean, also in a way like you know roughly at least Cartesian method of examining the subjective preconditions for objective experience from the perspective of the subject and what makes the subject and things like that. So yeah, these are the two poles we're left with, and we're told that they have this mutual pull towards one another, so much so that they literally become one another. And right, this is a very dialectical tension and situation we have going on here, right, where the opposites are passing over into one another. So I hope to get more of that here in section 2. That's the context and the corollaries. So yeah, I'm excited to get more into it. Those are my preliminary remarks. Does anybody else have any? Um, if not, we can begin reading. If anybody would like
I'm
to.
down. I'll read.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. Go take it away.
In the course of the foregoing, we have not only deduced the concept of transcendental philosophy, but have also furnished the reader with a glimpse into the entire system of philosophy. This, as we see, is constituted um, of two basic sciences which, though opposed to each other in principle and direction, mutually seek and supplement one another. Here we shall not set forth the entire system of philosophy, but only one of the basic sciences, and the derived concept thereof will thus first receive a more exact characterization. Only one complete Only one completion of the system of transcendental philosophy will come to recognize the necessity of a nature philosophy as a complementary science, and thereupon desist from making demands upon the former, which only a natural nature philosophy can satisfy. 1. The subjective. First and ground of all reality is for the transcendental philosopher the sole principle of explanation for everything else. Section 1. Then it necessarily begins with a general doubt as to the reality of the objective.
Hey, there we are. Back to right. We were saying Descartes, right? Is sort of.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. There we go. um, just wanted to point that out again. Sorry, Harrison. You can keep going if you want.
Just as the nature philosopher directed solely upon the objective, with nothing he more dearly wishes to and than a mixture of the subjective into knowledge. The transcendental philosopher, by contrast, wishes nothing more dearly than to avoid an admixture of the objective with the purely subjective principle of knowledge. The means of separation lie in absolute skepticism. The half skepticism, which merely contends against the common prejudices of mankind, while never looking to fundamentals, but rather the thoroughgoing skepticism, which is directed not against the individual prejudices, but against the basic preconception, whose rejection leads automatically to the collapse of everything else. For in addition to the artificial prejudices implanted in mankind, there are others far more fundamental, laid down in us not by art or education, but by nature herself. Prejudices which, for everyone but philosophers, serve as the principles of all knowledge. The merely self-made thinker rank even as the touchstone of all truth.
So we really called that one, huh?
We did. We Schelling is fucking here, fellas.
All right.
One basic prejudice to which all others reduce is no other than this: that there are things outside us. This is a conviction that rests neither on grounds nor on inferences. There is not a single refutable proof of it, and yet cannot be extirpated by an argument of the contrary. Naturam amen it makes claim to immediate certainty, since it assuredly relates to something entirely different from us, and even opposed to us, of which we understand not at all how it enters into immediate consciousness, and hence it can be regarded as nothing more than a prejudice, innate and primary, to be sure, but no less than a prejudice on that account.
Ooh, shots fired at G.E. Moore.
Yeah. True. I didn't even think. I legitimately forget about that guy so much because that's elite ball knowledge right there.
I don't know who G.E. Moore. I mean, I've
So-
heard the
so
name,
G-
but like
Simple enough to explain. So G. Moore's famous for several things. I actually really like his meta-ethics, but he is most famous for his argument for proof of external objects, which is very, very easy to summarize. And so I'll just do it now. Proof of the existence of external objects. Premise A. Here is one hand. Premise B. Here is another. Conclusion. External objects exist. So what G.E. Moore claims is that only on the condition that the existence of the external world is doubtful. So okay, the premise that like the existence of the external world is in doubt or doubtful is only based on the idea that any given like perception is doubtful, right? Moore reverses this and says, well, no, we do know that these given external objects exist, and therefore we know that the external world exists. I don't think it's actually strong, but that's the reference anyway.
Yep.
The reference is like he claims that Descartes' reasons for doubting the existence of external objects are not good. That like we can know, in fact, that certain external objects are there, and therefore we do not doubt that the external world exists. We do not need to doubt. It's not actually a problem. The problem with the external world is not a problem. That's G. Moore's position. Well, he's saying that both are circular, actually. He's saying that like the position that the external world is like if
he literally calls it a prejudice.
Total existence. Right. So well, here's the thing. He claims that the argument for the external, like the existence of external world, is also circular. He claims like the external world doesn't exist. Well, that's only or not. It doesn't exist, but it's doubtful. Well, only if we believe that any given like external perception is doubtful. Like Descartes says, I think he uses. Let's say he uses the candle or whatever, right? Is the candle actually there? Is he dreaming the candle? Kind of stuff. Well, Descartes himself later says, we know that in dreams, it's an entirely different like way. Dreams don't have a logical consistency. Dreams don't have like object permanence necessarily. Dreams don't have all that kind of stuff. And so there are good reasons independently for seeing and not doubting that like certain material objects are there. So like Moore is claiming that like we do, like I know that there's a hand in front of me. I don't know. I'm finding it hard to defend him. I'm finding it difficult to defend G.E. Moore because I really don't believe his position makes sense. And yeah, but that is his position. His position is that we have no good reason to doubt the existence of the external world.
And he doesn't really prove that without falling into circular reasoning, which I think, is not only, what Kirk was saying, but also I bringing it back to Schelling here. That's his point. Is that, I mean, that's just what he is saying, right? If you assume one of these positions, you're just going to, fall into skepticism of the other one, right? So like Descartes would fall into skepticism of G.E. Moore, and G.E. Moore falls into skepticism.
I'm going to attempt to seal man him
Descartes.
one more time. I think what it actually is we have this assumption that if it's possible to doubt, it's therefore valid to like. We have an assumption like that there's a burden of proof. And I think Moore is trying to say that there's also a burden of doubt. We need to have a good reason to doubt the existence of the external world. Otherwise, we do know it. We need to have a good reason to doubt, oh, is this really my hand? Am I hallucinating, etc. It couldn't just be this nebulous. There would have to be some like kind of justification for doubting that, for saying that, oh, my hand might be an illusion. Oh, I might be in the Matrix. Oh,
Right.
I might be dreaming, etc.
So put more like positively, I guess you have, on one hand. No, or maybe put more negatively then. Moore's position is kind of being skeptical of Descartes' skepticism of the external world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is essentially what I think is just a putting a different way of what it's almost like a tautology of what I think of what I think Schelling's saying here, right? There's a skepticism on both of these sides towards each other's methods.
I think the fundamental issue is just like with the way Moore defines knowledge, because I think he just has a very low standard for knowledge, and that's it.
Okay, well, sure, but even then, when attempting to prove that there are things outside of us, he can't really avoid the circular thing because it's a prejudice, which is at least in this paragraph, that's Schelling's point.
No, I think his proof is the sensation of the hand, and your statement is, oh, but the sensation does not prove that there actually is a hand, because there were cases in which there might be a sensation of a hand, but there's no proof of it. To which Moore would say, yeah, but you need some reason to doubt it.
Right, because it makes claim to an immediate certainty.
Yeah.
Which is what Schelling's saying.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, I just think that he is trying to redefine knowledge away so that it doesn't really need certainty. But then that's just my reading of him. This is not a comprehensive yet informal study of G. Moore. I just wanted to explain the reference.
Yeah. But for someone like Schelling, he wants certainty, right? That's sort of what he's after.
Yeah, no, he is firing shots at G. Moore.
Yeah.
From beyond the grave.
And from before G. Moore's time.
Yeah, no, exactly. Anyway.
Oh, I see. From G. Moore's perspective, from Schelling beyond the grave. I see. Okay. Okay. Does that all make sense? I think that pretty much covers pretty adequately this. Okay. Does Harrison or everybody else want to continue this?
I'm down to hand it off.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, no, I meant, oh, I thought you were asking for, where do I start?
At the contradiction.
The contradiction that a principle by which by nature cannot be immediately certain is yet accepted as blindly and groundlessly as one that is so is incapable of resolution by a transcendental philosopher. save on the presupposition that this principle is not just covertly and yet uncomprehendingly connected with, but is identical with, and the same one and the same with an immediate certainty, and to demonstrate this identity will in fact be the concern of transcendental philosophy. Do I continue?
Well, I'm trying to just think of a way to reformulate this because he says it a little jumbly in the text, so I'm just trying to see if I can like rephrase it basically, and also then comment on it further.
Why do we accept the existence of the external world as certain when there's no grounds for it? So that's the first part.
Yeah, and he's in. This is a problem. This is the problem basically for the transcendental philosopher.
So the transcendental philosopher's task is to explain, hey, we accept that it is certain because it actually does have some kind of ground in something that we do understand, which is essentially the way, again, taking it back to Descartes, meditations, even though he's doubting the existence of the external world, really his object is to explain why it exists. Because that's when he finishes, right?
Yep.
he finishes once he's accomplished the task of explaining, oh, I don't need to doubt stuff. Because it's actually grounded in the stuff that I can't doubt, which is, cogito ergo sum.
Yeah, save on the presupposition that this principle is not just covered. Immediate certainty. And to demonstrate this identity will affect these. Oh, okay. So he's actually saving. He's actually saying something more, more interesting. But just something else that's also interesting.
Okay.
I think, save on the principle is not. Okay, so I think he's saying in this after the comma. Basically, that what the transcendental philosopher doesn't know is that they're operating from the same standpoint of immediate certainty that the what is he calling it? That the nature philosopher is, and that a concern of transcendental philosophy will be to demonstrate this identity. So basically, that they're the same. That they're the same in terms of like the immediacy of their certainty, even though like the content of their positions are different, the sort of structure of their certainty.
No, but I don't think that necessarily is uncomprehended by the it's. I think it's uncomprehended by the natural intelligence. I don't think it's comprehended by the transcendental philosopher. Like the transcendental philosopher. Okay, the transcendental philosopher, when they start, has sort of a faith that those two are connected, but doesn't know how.
Well, I mean, right? I guess it depends on the philosopher.
So the transcendental philosopher presupposes that the two are connected and are identical with each other, but the way in which that happens is uncomprehended. It's an as yet uncomprehended connection.
Well, this just gets really. From the position of Schelling, I don't think that's the case because we have to remember he's not only operating out of Kantian tradition. This is his response to Fichte as well, who I think does take the subject as like absolute primacy, right? Like absolute I. So, and even you could argue Kant does sort of place as a supreme principle, right, of the understanding and thus of synthetic unity and experience, the transcendental subject. So
I see.
There is this sort of like I think it's way less obvious, but you could and maybe even not totally correct here, but I think what Schelling is getting at is that there's this primacy of a subject with the transcendental philosopher. And that
but they're both equally. If you can ground one in the other, it shows that they're actually both immediately certain. So,
yeah.
Shots not fired at G.E. Moore, actually.
G.E. Moore based just as Kant is based. We getting super
mark?
dialectical now. Yeah, it's like the biggest brain is just there is a hand, there is a.
It's really interesting. I can't stop talking about analytic philosophy when I'm talking about this, and I haven't been reading analytic philosophy either. I think it's the guy.
Yeah.
I think it's Schelling is very he speaks to analytic philosophers in a way that I have not seen from the others.
Yeah. Which is also kind of meta dialectics, right? It's like on one end you have this continental, like crazy mystic, philosopher of mythology and mysticism, and then you have analytic philosophy. That's culturally, at least in the academy, those would be very opposed. But anyway, cool. Okay, is there anything else before we begin the second paragraph or section, subsection? Does anybody want to read this? I can read it. Number 2. But now, even for the common use of reason, nothing is immediately certain save the proposition, I exist. Which, since it actually loses its meaning outside of immediate consciousness, is the most individual of all truths. And the absolute preconception, which must first be accepted if anything else is to be certain, so just literally Descartes, a proposition there are things outside us, will only be certain for the transcendental philosopher in virtue of its identity with the proposition I exist. And its certainty will likewise only be equal to the certainty of the proposition from which it borrows its own. Transcendental cognition would thus differ from ordinary cognition on two counts. First, that the certainty of the external things, that the certainty that external things exist is for it a mere prejudice, which it goes beyond in order to discover the grounds thereof. It can never be called a transcendental philosopher's business to demonstrate the existence of things in themselves, but merely that it is a natural and necessary prejudice to assume that external objects are not real. Second, that it separates the two propositions, I exist and there are things outside me, which in ordinary consciousness are fused together, setting the one before the other, setting precisely in order to prove their identity, and so that it can really exhibit the immediate connection, which is otherwise merely felt. By this very act of separation, if complete, it shifts into transcendental mode, into the transcendental mode of apprehension, which is no way natural but artificial. I don't know what he means by artificial. I guess just not natural in the way he's using natural.
Yeah, no, he's just making a distinction between natural consciousness and transcendental philosophy, and saying that transcendental philosophy is, like Hegel said, it's somebody turning themselves and their whole way of thinking on their head, directed by some unknown impulse.
Yeah.
Which means also that it emerged at points in time rather than being eternal, because it's not natural. It's not inherent to human beings, but it emerges. It's like a historical thing. It's an event.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, is there anything else?
I just have me come up with a question, which is can we say that is Descartes the first transcendental Western philosopher, or does it go back earlier than that? But I guess that's like a long tangent that we probably shouldn't get into.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's something that makes me wonder.
To my immediate knowledge, no.
Time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I think you're far from the camera.
Oh. Oh wait, is my? Let me check. Just. No, that's the right microphone. Yeah, I was gonna.
Oh, you're good now.
Oh, okay. That's weird. Okay, weird. And to my understanding, Descartes. I mean, how I was taught Descartes is that he's the first person in the Western canon, at least, to be doing this sort of, self-reflection. So my answer is yeah, he is. But they're also.
Yeah, but then even when Dr. Lee taught Descartes to me, did he bring up Augustine with you? Because Augustine has a similar argument.
No, he did not to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so in Augustine, and even before Augustine, there's the same argument as cogito ergo sum against skepticism, because skepticism is a school of philosophy that exists, and he's Augustine's well, the skeptic can't doubt that they exist because they're thinking, basically.
Okay.
I mean, those weren't the exact words, obviously, but you can look this up. This is a phenomenon people talk about.
Interesting.
But then again, I don't think it was ever done in the same kind of systematic way where we try to establish the existence of the external world and try to unravel doubt from like that starting point, except with Descartes.
Yeah.
So that's just a historical question that interests me.
Yeah, me too. It's a cool intellectual history is very interesting. Okay. I'm wondering something that I struck me as kind of weird. Uh, this concept that or notion or whatever that nothing is immediately certain except I exist loses its meaning outside of immediate Oh, I guess because immediate consciousness takes the fusion to be meaningful. Okay, never mind. Okay, yeah, all right. This all looks good to me. Okay, moving on. Um, does anyone want to read this third subsection? Okay, I keep going. If only the subjective has initial reality for the transcendental philosopher, he will also make only the subjective the immediate object of his cognition. The objective will become an object for him indirectly only, and whereas in ordinary cognition the knowing itself, the act of knowing, vanishes into the object, in transcendental cognition, on the contrary, the object as such vanishes into the act of knowing. Transcendental cognition is thus a knowing of knowing insofar as it is purely subjective. Thus, in intuition, for example, only the objective element attains to ordinary consciousness, the intuiting itself being lost in the object, whereas the transcendental mode of apprehension merely glimpses the intuited through the act of intuiting. Again, ordinary thinking is a mechanism governed by concepts, though they are not distinguished as concepts, whereas transcendental thinking suspends this mechanism and in becoming aware of the concept as an act, attains to the concept of a concept. In ordinary action, the acting itself is lost sight of in the object of action. Philosophizing is likewise an action, yet not only an action, but also at the same time a continuous scrutiny of the self so engaged. The nature of the transcendental mode of apprehension must therefore consist essentially in this, that even that in which all other thinking, knowing, or acting escapes consciousness and is absolutely non-objective, is therein brought to consciousness and becomes objective. It consists, in short, of a constant objectifying to itself of the subjective. The transcendental artifice will thus consist in the ability to maintain oneself constantly in this duality of acting and thinking. So this is interesting. We get this conflict between acting and thinking, which is funny because I just got out of this past semester out of a Hamlet and philosophy course, and this is sort of the whole like the main theme of it, right? Was does thinking inhibit action and like vice versa, basically. Which is a really interesting sort of practical consideration to this very, so far, theoretical epistemology. Yeah, I don't know if I have too much else to say about that. I just think that's interesting.
I do. It's actually it's very present in this is a very present theme in Hinduism, running from the Upanishads and also into the Gita and the concept of karma yoga. Um, the Upanishads are, I said first transcendental philosophy in the Western sense because like the Upanishads are explicitly transcendental because the subject is who is the knower of knowledge, and what is the relationship of to the known. That is essentially the subject of the Upanishads. And then in the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, the focus is that you act, but you know that it's not you who is acting, because what you actually are is the knower, and the knower just observes. So that's like the goal in karma yoga is basically that, yes, you continue to act. It's not that you are totally disengaged from the concept of action, but you are not attached to the action because you are aware that you are really the knower and not the actor, or roughly. Actually, you are the actor through your active knowing, but the action happens automatically as a consequence of knowing, is a better way of putting it.
Yeah, that's cool. It reminds me of like deontological ethics, like generally as well.
Oh no, it's explicitly deontological.
Yeah.
It's explicitly, because the focus of karma yoga is to perform one's dharma to achieve liberation or
Yep.
moksha, right? So in other words, dharma literally translates to duty is the best translation, and the best translation of liberation is, well, freedom. Huh? You do your duty, and therefore you are free. Huh? Interesting.
Ding 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 ding. Cons.
Ding ding ding. Yeah.
Cool.
So no, that's explicitly there.
Cool.
Sure.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up. That's I was going to tackle that from the German idealism side, but basically same shit, different names at that point.
Yeah, well, the method is still different because the method is
Right.
insight and direct observation. So it's like basically, yeah, it's observational in Eastern tradition with some arguments, but the understanding that it's observation, not argument, that leads to the truth.
Hmm.
So attend to your faculties, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But the focus is, hey, believe me, because I'm this great guru. Not, I have to argue your way into you faculties.
Yeah. But still coming to essentially identical conclusions, which is cool.
Yes. Yes, basically, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Cool. And that's So that's interesting, that acting and thinking duality. And that's because of this transcendental artifice, which he also elaborates on. This struck out to me because this is what like Hegel talks about, the concept of a concept, and it seems to be that I'm pretty sure this is what Hegel defines as like subjectivity, and I'm seeing now why he does that, because I didn't, I'm not.
What is what Hegel defines as subjectivity?
Concept of a concept, which
Concept
makes sense
of
in
a
this
concept.
context if he's taking a lot from Schelling, because that's also what Schelling's saying. This is what
An ordinary thinking is a mechanism.
right because
I see.
yeah, because the concept of a concept is essentially right. This is what Kant is after, right, in the Critique of Pure Reason. Then he gets to the I think, right, as the sort of
Oh my God.
fundamental
Guys,
principle.
Trump really did complete the system of German idealism because he has concepts of a plan. And that's a concept, right?
I remember Patrick. It's so funny. I was uploading the Kant studies to YouTube, and I remember you making that joke. Like, I just heard that joke again in one of the recordings that I was uploading recently.
It's probably
it's
like
back.
the only connection there, because he's certainly not doing his duty.
Nope. Well. Okay, so that's the concept of a concept.
Concept of a concept.
Cool. Okay, I don't think I have anything else. Does anybody else have anything else on this, on any of these like 3 bits of these corollaries? In the meantime, I'll try to come up with a Schellingian wisdom of the session.
Schellingian wisdom of the day. Always have concepts of your concepts.
Yeah.
You know?
Be transcendental.
If you don't have a plan, at least have concepts of a plan.
Yeah, it will. It's part of the. It's part of the two necessary sciences. So make sure you take it all the way. No half-assing. No, just concept. We need the concept of a concept, people. That's what we need. All right. Well, it seems to be it. Okay, we'll see you next time for the preliminary division of a transcendental philosophy. We're going to divide it up. It's a very Kantian practice. We'll probably be naming enterprises.
Who up designating the enterprise?
Yeah, we'll be up designating enterprises. So, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll see you next time for that. Cool. Bye-bye.